if it's worth your while. So give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me break it. And I swear, you're falling into me, touch me. I swear, you would do anything that I want. So keep us awake till the dawn. Baby, feel free.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon once again to everybody in the East. Good morning to everybody in Europe, in London, in South Africa. I am Daryn Smith. I am both the MC for my own event and the presenter. So no multiple people on today's call. Right, just a little introduction for those of you that are joining for the first time today. This is the third Grow with Inbound event that we've been doing. We've been doing them for the last 3 years. It's the first time we're doing a completely virtual event, obviously because we can't meet in person, but also because Huble has gone digital itself. So we've got our offices in Singapore, and that's where we started this morning's sessions. We have our offices in London and in South Africa and in Germany. And then we're going to end off later with our team in Chicago. So we've got over 15 different sessions today, 22 speakers. We've got over, I actually just found out, over 600 people registered for today. So we thank all the speakers. We thank all of you taking time out today to listen to us. I hope that it's educational and also very informative. So there is a Q&A panel in your Zoom chat. Please do ask me any questions. I will try and monitor the Q&A and then present as we go along. Otherwise, towards the end, I will present. We've only got 30 minutes, so I will try get through as much as possible. Afterwards, there will be a link that you can download this digital maturity model. We are launching our Huble Digital maturity model today. You guys are the first ones to see it. So you'll be able to download a PDF at the end and get access to that full model. And then just a reminder, especially for those who are on the call for the first time today, joining us for the first webinar, we are running a competition. So if you want to win a pair of Apple AirPods, please do find interesting quotes that I've said in this presentation, post it on LinkedIn, hashtag Grow20, and we'll pick a lucky winner. More details on that in the end. But let me get straight into digital maturity. Today we're going to talk about how digitally mature is your company, but then how mature do you want to actually be? So what is maturity? Any good presenter goes to dictionary.com and looks into the definition of what they're talking about. So that's exactly what I did. I thought number 2 for this session was most relevant. Digital maturity is around a perfected condition. The reason why I think that number 2 is so much more relevant than the others is because every company can have a different perfected condition. What is mature for one company is not necessarily mature for another. So I've got a long way to go when it comes to maturity though. I found this quote while busy doing my research. Maturity begins when we content to feel we're right about something without feeling the necessity to prove someone else wrong. So as I said, I have a huge way to go personally because I always want to be right. And that's what actually led me onto this thing about digital maturity. What really got me thinking about digital maturity. So as much as my title might be Chief Strategy Officer, what that means is I spend a lot of time doing sales. And when you do sales, you end up doing a lot of solution development, a lot of costings. As you've heard from my previous slide, I love being right. And that is not entirely reflected in the win rate of the proposals that I put out. So instead of doing the mature thing and maybe thinking, what is wrong with the way that I am putting together solutions, I decided I'm going to build a model that actually helps me prove that I'm right. And I have built the right solution. It's just not right for you in this very moment. I get so much feedback, this is too much for us right now, or we'd love to do it, but we have no budget, or what you've proposed here is for a really big enterprise and we're still a little bit smaller. So yeah, so I'm hoping that, you know, by building this model, I'm going to allow you know, customers of ours to be able to very easily identify where they are today and where they want to go in the long term and plot that out, making my job a bit easier, I suppose. So talking about maturity, and going back to say, you know, there's a now and there's a future, and not everybody's maturity needs to be the same. So Huble Digital was formed in March. It was the merger of Empool and B2B Marketing Lab. I was the founder of, one of the founders at Empool. And you know, in your first few years of business, what you end up doing is you end up spending a lot of time trying to find customers and trying to work out your product market fit. So things like an HR policy is just at the bottom of your priority list. But nonetheless, we had an HR policy. It used to be stuck on our fridge, and it served us very well. It said, don't be a dick, do the right thing. And as I said, it worked really, really well. But as Huble has kind of matured, we started to work with bigger companies. We needed to attract better talent, more experienced talent. And one of the things that I always used to get asked in an interview is, oh, what is your HR policy on this or that? Or do you have, what's your maternity policy or your work from home policy? What are those policies? So, you know, we had to mature to develop these policies, and we do have you know, a big doorstop of policies now that around HR, and as a result we are more matured. Now, what's important about maturity is you can't you know, not have the policies, attract those customers or that talent, and then put the policies in place. You actually have to mature first to get to where you want to go. And that's a really, really important thing. The other thing, when you see the model just now, is you cannot skip steps. You have to take each step at a time. And once you are in a certain stage of maturity, it does mean that you cannot fall back and become less mature again. So some companies are desperately drinking from the fountain of youth. As I said, not all companies need to be mature, but what we have seen now in this kind of pandemic time is some companies should have really put kind of their big girl panties on and gone off and matured and not carried on trying to desperately drink from this fountain of youth. So although, as I said, not everybody needs to mature, many companies really do have to take that step. So what I'm hoping to achieve today, 4 things really, is 1, help you identify which stage of digital maturity you are in today. Now the model you'll see has an X and a Y axis, so you can be mature in different stages of the life cycle. And then where do you want to move in terms of the short term, and then as well as the long term, where do you want to get to? And then I'm hoping, because we've gone very granular, that you are able to map out a plan and identify exactly what you need to do in order to get to a certain level of maturity. So we got a lot of inspiration. If you go and Google digital maturity models, there are several out there. This one in particular is from IDC. We have adopted the IDC's naming convention. I really like that, from going from digital resistor, explorer, player, transformer, and disruptor. The other thing that's really nice about this model is it explains the outcome of each of these stages. What it doesn't show, though, is what are some of the key indicators that you are in the stage, and what are the things that you need to do to move into the next stage. So we wanted to build upon this IDC model. The other model we looked at was by the Boston Consulting Group, BCG. they have this model that actually shows, it's got similar stages to the IDC model, but it shows how do you go from being digitally opportunistic through to having digital embedded within your organization. And the first step there is around appointing a chief digital officer, where everything is centralized. And then you move across into where you start recruiting more digital people and so on, and becomes embedded in your organization. Really, really interesting model, but once again, doesn't explain the granular detail. Must warn you, when you do download the PDF, it is a giant document, and don't let the size of it scare you away. One of my favorite models is from Smart Insights. It's an old model. It's been around for a long time, and I really like this particular model. The problem with this model, though, is that it's only focused on customer acquisition, and it is only focused on digital marketing. So anything post-sale is not in this, and we really wanted to give you guys a model where there is post-sale. And then, of course, the last model we got inspiration from is the HubSpot flywheel. So we're huge believers of the flywheel. We believe that in order to grow, you can't just acquire new customers. In order to really grow, you need to retain customers, and you need to get existing customers to spend more. After all, the only type of marketing that will never cease to work is word of mouth marketing. And if you can really delight your customers, that is going to, whether it's B2B or B2C, that's going to result in word of mouth, and you're going to be able to grow and grow and grow. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is going to be a zoomed out version of our model, and I'll go into detail as I walk through it. So what you see along the x-axis there is the different stages of maturity. You start off as a digital resistor, using digital due to necessity only. So you're doing digital because you feel you have to. Maybe your customers are forcing you, maybe your competitors are forcing you. Then you look at digital explorer, which they are, in this stage, companies are exploring digital, that things are often project driven, and as a result, the experience is inconsistent and poorly integrated. The next level, where we see the majority of companies, is digital players. They are consistent with their digital, but they're not truly innovative. And then one step up, digital transformer. So there's the buzzword digital transformation. So how do I digitally transform? So this is where you are providing world-class digital experiences. And then at the top of the model, you have the digital disruptor, who is actually creating new markets and new business models by the way that they do digital. Then down on the y-axis is the different stages of a customer life cycle. So I'm going to go through those stages quickly in a little bit more detail, and then I'm going to jump into two of them in greater detail and explain the model. So starting with planning. So first of all, in the planning stage, we look at how do you plan and develop strategy, and how do you use technology to support your strategy. In the awareness stage, we're looking at how do you attract prospects that are not aware of your brand or of your products or services, but your products can solve for their goals and challenges. So just a note here is, when it comes to this model, you could be a digital disruptor in the awareness stage, but you could be a digital explorer, for example, in the consideration stage. So you're not necessarily kind of a digital transformer in everything, as an example, and you may not want to be a disruptor, transformer, or player in everything. Right, into the consideration stage. So here we look at how mature are you when it comes to attracting and engaging prospects who are aware of your brand, and how your products and services can assist them. And they are most likely comparing your solution that you offer to alternative solutions in the consideration stage. In the close stage is How do you turn those leads into customers? How digitally mature are you with that? And I think in the pandemic period now, we've seen a lot of organizations having to make huge adjustments to be able to do kind of remote sales during this period. Win back. So these are leads and prospects you had, or maybe customers that you had that have now gone to competitors. Now, what I'm finding, this is one of the areas where I see the most digital resistance, where there's very little planning and activity when it comes to digital in winning back lost prospects and customers. Onboarding and fulfillment. How do you fulfill new orders and onboard new customers using digital? I think a lot of the e-commerce players have done this very well, but how do we look, especially many of the organizations on the call today are business-to-business organizations. How do you onboard and fulfill orders completely using digital? Upsell and cross-sell, using digital once again. How mature are you to facilitate existing customers buying more product from you? Then we move on to retention and renewal. How do you keep existing customers as customers? Customer service, how to ensure customers can easily get help and have a good experience when needing assistance. One of the most interesting things here for me in this stage is how much happier customers are when you enable them to self-serve. So they are getting a service from you, but they are not taking up any time in your call centers, in your ticketing systems, and so on. They are actually self-serving. And the most mature organizations have focused on digital customer service, which is effectively self-service. Is how do you encourage and facilitate customers to proactively promote your brand, your products, and your services? Right, so as I said, I am going to deep dive into the consideration stage. So when you get the model, you will see that it opens up further. So when you look at the consideration stage, you've got the levels of maturity along the top. And then we've gone and we've taken specific customer touch points along the side. So we look at SEO, for example. When you are a digital resistor, you most likely are doing SEO as a project to identify and optimize your keywords on your website once. When you move to Digital Explorer, you're doing occasional projects. Then when you get to the digital player stage, you've got a very structured approach to SEO. It's not only in the consideration stage. Now remember, the consideration stage is when a company already knows about your brand, or they already know about the product or service that you offer. So it's not awareness, very top of funnel. It's consideration when they're considering and they're comparing you to competitors. So you would expect that a digital player, somebody that is consistent, has a structured approach. They've integrated it with their blogging plan. They've got consistency in how they're using keywords, both across earned, owned, and paid, and then they're using some sort of SEO software. When you move on to the next stage, digital transformer, they've still got that structured approach. They've moved from kind of most likely looking at SEO on a monthly or quarterly basis, and they're actually looking at SEO from a weekly basis. So, and eventually when you get to the digital disruptor stage, where you're looking at it literally on a daily kind of approach. And if you look at some of the big e-commerce players out there who are disrupting, they literally have SEO teams that are monitoring keywords and where they're ranking, because when you go digital, 100% digital, and as for those of you that joined me in the previous session with John Stoner from Stripe, is that you know, before, companies often differentiated based on where they were, what mall they were in, what office block they were in, what city they were in. As we go digital, it levels that playing field, and it's really about who is found and where are you found. So if you're not on that first page of Google and everything is now digital, the chance of you being successful decreases hugely. So then if we go onto blogging, you see that as a digital resistor, you are doing ad hoc blogging, and you go all the way to the other extreme. I'm not going to go through each block, otherwise I'm going to lose attendees by the second as they get bored of me reading through this. As I said, you'll be able to download this, but you go all the way through to digital disruptor, where you've got 2 to 5 times a week. And if you look at organizations like HubSpot, they are blogging 2 to 5 times a day. So, you know, when you think that you're doing well by doing 2 to 5 times a month, that is meaning that you're only a digital player. When you look at paid media, we look at people that are doing short-term campaigns that are very product-focused when they're a resistor, going all the way up to where disruptor, where you're using multivariant testing. You are monitoring by the hour, by the day. You're doing extensive tracking and everything, and you're no longer running campaigns. You're only running programs that are always on. You look at your website, going from one extreme where you're updating your website every 18 to 36 months to, as you move up, where a website becomes more what HubSpot calls growth-driven design, but a permanent website program, constantly adding pages, constantly testing, constantly adding personalization, looking at analytics, working off a backlog. So you list everything that you need to do to your website, and then work highest priority to lowest priority. We're looking at chat. Initially, maybe you using live chat all the way through to the stage where you're using custom bots. You're looking at email, where in digital resistor, you're not using email at all. Then you start using some autoresponders, some marketing automation, and eventually you go to multivariate testing. Video and phone are the other 2 options. I don't want to stick on this too long. We've only got about 7 minutes left. If I look at customer service, so some people may go, well, you know what, how does SEO apply to customer service? And you'll see that in a digital resistor and a digital explorer, they're not doing any customer service SEO whatsoever. But the digital player who's starting to become consistent and wants to, be found. So if you've got whether it's a service, a B2B product, a B2C product, you don't want any customer to go and Google how to set up my Wi-Fi router, or how to get hold of my lawyer, or whatever you're trying to. If somebody Googles that and you have not optimized for customer service, they're going to find a competitor, and that give a competitor an opportunity to get in, and they will get in that door. That's the example of how SEO is used. When you look at blogging, same type of thing. The first 3 stages, nobody's blogging about customer service. All they're interested in is acquiring new customers. When you look at the website, people are not doing anything with their website regarding customer service in the first 2 stages. But when they start becoming a digital player, the website isn't just about customer acquisition anymore. It's about self-service. It's about delighting that customer. So it's really, really important, because that drives word of mouth and then allows you to grow. Chat might be in customer service. It could be a standalone chat platform like Intercom to help you do self-service. But as you become more mature, you need your sales and your service to have an integrated chat, and that needs to be routed to the right people. You need preparation when it comes to email. And last of all, when it comes to software, where in the beginning you might have a support@hubledigital.com email address as an example. But as you move, you then get some sort of standalone ticketing system, maybe something like Freshdesk or Zendesk or something like that. And then you're going to start moving into the likes of HubSpot, into the likes of Salesforce, where you are able to start having a single platform that's more integrated and allows you to give that consistent experience. Right, so ending off the last few slides. So a lot of people think that, disruption, when you get to that final stage, that top of the pyramid, you are a disruptor because you are digital. They are wrong. And this is my favorite slide from the Inbound conference in Boston last year that Brian Halligan put up. You will see on the left-hand side of each of these, many of these organizations, you look at Rackspace, you look at GoToMeeting, PayPal, you look on the other side, there are many organizations, Apple Music as an example. These are digital first organizations. And you would think that, I need to be really, really good at digital so that I can disrupt. But what you actually need to do is you need to disrupt on customer experience, and you need to use digital to scale that. But it is very, very difficult to scale a customer experience program when you're not actually digitally mature enough. It becomes very, very difficult to quickly put things in place, and it may feel like you are continually failing because you try to do something disruptive, but then it fails. Now remember, once you get to a stage, you have to continually practice the elements in that stage to stay at that particular stage. So last slide from me is also another truth bomb, I suppose. My maturity absolutely changes depending on who I'm with. When I'm with my close surfer friends, you will find us on skateboards and so on, and then you'll find me presenting at conferences and being very serious. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is that you need to surround yourself with the right people to help you become more digitally mature, whether that is like the Boston Consulting Group recommended, where you start with a chief digital officer that holds onto that kind of baton and passes it on through the next stages. Maybe it depends on the agency or consultancy that you're working with. Maybe you're already on that path and you need to look at what are the resources I need to hire or change within my organization. Are the people that are in my organization today still relevant, and will they be able to help me be able to mature and keep me at that particular stage? So the page is live right now. You can head over to hubledigital.com/digital-maturity and download this. It is in PDF. If you really want, I can give you a version in a spreadsheet. Just reach out to me, and you can then highlight where you fall or where you think you fall. Really good exercise. As I said, look at where you are today, where you want to go in the short term, where you want to go in the long term, and then you can work out, because we've got all the detail there, exactly what you need to do to get to that stage. So I do have one question here. It's from Lars. Seems a different meaning depending on yes, so what Lars is asking is, the word digital could have different kind of interpretations in here, and absolutely, I think we're not, and that's why I looked at those other models that were very digital marketing focused. This is more digital transformation, more technology, IT, full processes, not just the digital marketing side of things. So there's no other questions. So I'm going to end off my session right on time, which is great. As I said, thank you so much for all of you that stayed on the session. I was monitoring the attendees on my second screen here. It was good to see you all there. We have this competition running, as I said, and you just have to post any key takeaways, any pictures on LinkedIn with the hashtag Grow20, and we're going to give away a pair of Apple AirPods. Coming up next, we have just posted the links to the next sessions, which are starting in 15 minutes. So first of all, there is a session with Rowley, the guy with the great beard, and he's going to be talking with Olivia from HubSpot around using HubSpot to win enterprise sales deals. I'm going to go and have a glass of water because I'm going to be hosting Andre from Aircall, and we're going to be talking about managing remote sales teams effectively. So those links are either in your email or in the chat pane. Thank you so much for joining us and staying on this call, and I hope that you got something out of it and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye.